Okay, good afternoon, everyone. You're tuned into another episode of AIA Live. I'm your host, Charlie Spies, and with me today in the studio is Bad Girl Liz. She was a bad girl today because she was late for this interview, so she's living up to her name and her reputation. And we're going to be talking about the impact of COVID-19 on her business, on the industry, and on the strippers in her network. Good afternoon, Liz. How are you doing?
Hi, Charlie. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. COVID-19 is having such an enormous impact on all of us. I'm living in one of the most beautiful Caribbean islands with some of the most amazing beaches, second to San Diego, of course. And we cannot go in the water, so you could imagine how crazy it is for me. And we don't have any tourists on the beach, so it's strange. It's a strange time for us here. Okay. Over the coming weeks, we're going to be hosting a series of discussions on the impact of COVID-19 professionals, businesses, and consumers in the sex and adult entertainment industry. And today I want to find out a bit about you, Liz, about your business and how this crisis is taking its toll on you personally and certainly on your business. Let's just go straight into it, Liz.
Okay.
Tell us a bit about your background. How did you get into the adult entertainment industry?
I started the company in the 90s when I was going through college. So I got into it that way. I was just employing all my college friends to have jobs doing bartending and go-go dancing, and then also working as entertainers for bachelor parties.
Okay, I think it said in one of the interviews that you had done online that you started in 1991.
Yes.
And it was that the beginning of Bad Girl Productions, or was that another company?
No, that was the beginning of Bad Girl Productions.
I see. What was the motivation for you getting into the industry?
Oh, to pay for college. So
to pay.
Okay. Yeah, pay for college. I have a couple college degrees, so I started the company to help pay for college, and then I got all my other girlfriends to help go through college as well.
It's an industry that is frowned upon for the most part by society. I'm sure that was a bit of a challenge for you. What was society's attitude like back then towards the industry?
Back then, we were just coming out of the 80s, so it was definitely through a transformational time. I think it was pretty frowned upon, yet there was also we aligned with the underground, working with like DJs and underground artists. So when we were working with the underground artists and in the art culture, we seemed to have found like our niche so we could really thrive. But there was always a duality of what you're doing and is good and what you're doing is not so good.
But what about family and friends? What did they have to say about you getting into this crazy industry?
Right, exactly. I kept it from my family for the first few years. It wasn't until right before I graduated college that they all found out. My dad said, why did you start this? I go, well, because I needed to pay for college. And he's like, well, that's pretty smart then that you're able to start a business on your own, pay for college on your own, and employ, a few hundred of my friends to pay for college as well. So basically the company put a lot of girls through college.
It sounds as though you had an amazing experience and also a lot, major success. Talk about the success you've had when you first started, or was it a huge struggle for you?
So it took us a good couple of years. We were booking a lot of stuff locally, but it took a couple of years for the company to really grow exponentially. We were primarily focused here in San Diego in the beginning. And then eventually we took off. We got a couple TV shows under our belts, and we did a few radio shows. And then we took off to a bunch of different locations. And that was the early 2000s. And then it kind of lay dormant for a few years through the 2000s, but now we're branching out again in the last 6 to 8 years. So it's been really good. So we've had a few really big successes, and then we lay dormant, and then we get really, really big successes. And I think we're right now on an upswing. So it's been nice.
You were pretty lucky compared to me, because when I got started in the industry, it was actually in Los Angeles. I was a male stripper and a male. That was back in the day when I had a gorgeous body. I wouldn't try that now, but I remember my friends and relatives not speaking to me for about 3 years when they found out. But by the time they found out, I was in Germany, and where I spent about 4.5 years in the industry. And it was quite difficult for me with friends and relatives finding out that this is the industry that I got into. But the spotlight is all about you now. What about regrets? Do you have any regrets getting into this industry?
Yeah, I'm just
There must be some. There must be. Yeah, go on.
Into the industry, my biggest regret is by the time I graduated UCSD, I wanted to go to law school. That was my whole point of going to college. So my biggest regret is by the time I graduated UCSD, my company was so big and we were making so much money and we had so many girls employed that I never continued to go to law school. So because I didn't go to law school, that's my biggest regret, is not finishing out my education, because it was overshadowed by a tremendous company success. And I should have just continued to go to extend my education.
I have no doubt you would have made a brilliant lawyer. Absolutely no doubt.
Yeah.
Many people often ask me what would I say to my kids, particularly if they wanted to get into the industry, what would I say to them? So I'm going to ask you the same thing. What would you say to your kids if they wanted to get into the adult industry as a stripper or a porn performer?
Yeah, well, there's those two categories. So stripper, I would say, go for it. There's a lot of money to be made. It's a lot of fun. Position yourself correctly as being an entertainment industry. Avoid crossing the other line where maybe you're going to be in the darker side of the adult entertainment industry. And I would educate my daughter to show them all different levels inside of the adult entertainment industry. I mean, you have so much, webcam, porn, entertainers, escort, and each one has its own aspect and makes its own money. So I would just really educate them. Knowledge is power, and just educate them as to what's what. But in the end, just if you're making that kind of money when you're young, invest and save, and invest and save.
Absolutely, because the world is very unforgiving. And when they find out that you have been in the industry, in some societies, let me tell you, I cannot even get a bank loan in my country now because I'm well known for being in the sex industry. So it has its repercussions, certainly.
It definitely does. It definitely does. So speaking to that, I have a couple of different companies. I have Bad Girl Productions, which is all the strippers, but we plan bachelor parties. And then I have 2 other bachelor party planning companies. They're like fluffy and vanilla, and there's no strippers whatsoever. And I was looking for a ghostwriter for my ebook. And I pitched it and I showed him Bad Girls. I'm like, oh my God, we'll never write a book for you. Forget this. We will never associate with you. So I hung up and called again. And I pitched my other company that didn't have anything to do with strippers. Oh, absolutely. We can't wait to have you as a client. This is brilliant. I'm like, it's the same person, the same everything. The only difference is strippers versus no strippers. So you definitely speak, what you're talking about is accurate. You get beat down and people say no to you because you're in a stripper in the adult industry. They don't want to associate with you, but they're always going to be there. It's crazy. I don't like that as much. So I know what you're talking about now. It's not fun.
It's a very disingenuous world and very hypocritical. I've had many people speak down about or against my business or against me in public. It would call me to apologize and then maybe to make a booking for something. So it's this very disingenuous world, and that is very good advice to give a son or daughter wanted to get into the industry. Now you talk about having instant success, but business is never that straightforward. What were the most challenging parts of getting into the business with Bad Girl Production? Because it's never that easy.
No, it's not. We've seen we're in the adult industry, but we're on an online platform that starts. So I think you're only as good as your technology and who's programming your websites, and you're only as good as the technology that's out there. So a lot of my success, is based on that. But we've definitely had our challenges. Like I would say the 2000s crushed me because Google came up. Any search engine stuff I had was just wiped out, and we had to start again with all the SEO and all the Google stuff. And that was really, I really struggled with that. That was the hardest thing, is to stay afloat on the internet. And that's one aspect. Another struggle would just be the ups and downs financially, because it's seasonal. So you think you're making all this money, and then November, December hits, and you have no money for Christmas, and you saved a little, but you never know how hard slow season's going to hit you, which is similar to what we're experiencing right now with COVID. It's like instant slow season, and none of us know what we're doing.
Well, we're going to talk about COVID because it's going to be an interesting discussion about the impact it's having on you and your girls. But having worked with so many gorgeous girls, and I know that they can be divas, and they could be a pain in the ass sometimes with the natural competition amongst beautiful women. Talk a bit about that. What sort of issues do you have with all these gorgeous girls at one event, for example? What are some of the struggles and stresses of that?
It's just their princess attitude. They want everything, and then they feel are entitled to everything, and they want everything even before they get there. So if we're booking on an event, they just want everything. They want everything right in the beginning, and that's difficult. And then you have the competing personalities where so-and-so doesn't get along with so-and-so, and then there's these cat fights. Yet the customer booked those two girls, so you just got to mitigate the cat fight just so they can do the show for that 1 or 2 hours. And it's this constant dealing with personalities and cat fights and big heads and big attitudes and sassy, sexy girls. At the end of the day, they all get naked and make money. And that's the point of the whole thing. Is my job is to have everyone get naked and make tons of money and just get along for that 1 or 2 hours. And it's definitely challenging, and definitely has its challenges.
I have to ask this question, Liz. Have you been a stripper yourself?
I was a stripper myself in the 90s, going through college. I used the money I said put for college, but also reinvested in the company. It was the fastest way to make a lot of money.
Of course, absolutely. I would be disappointed if you'd said no to that, because you're an absolutely gorgeous lady. I would be very disappointed. Okay, well, the industry went through a number of changes recently, particularly with new legislation in terms of FOSTA and FESTA and human trafficking and so on. Has this in any way affected your business?
Well, the FESTA laws caused a lot of difficulty, because I used to advertise on Backpage and on Craigslist, and even companies like Yelp, and they wouldn't allow us to advertise whatsoever. So I had to restructure the company to kind of make it more PG and less adult, because I never really aligned with hardcore adult. So we just had to clean up everything up and polish it up and put clothes on the girls and stuff like that, on the websites. And that was another reasons why we branded off to the subsidiary companies. But so that's one thing. Is how it affects us to doing online, what we do for online. And then I think all those girls that were doing that industry on Backpage, we've had a huge influx of applicants because they don't know where to go. So they needed to turn into a legitimate agency that would do the proper screening and hiring of girls and everything. So there was a big learning curve on the girls coming to the legal side of stuff. Yeah. The other thing that was interesting is when I started reading these laws, I didn't even know. I knew about sex trafficking, but I didn't realize it applied to me. So that got really bizarre, just reading it and going, what? I just thought we were running around
I was going to mention that, because although your sector of the industry is a bit removed from the the accusation of human trafficking, they're trying to rope everything into it. Like, girls know they were going to be strippers, and you told them they were going to be something else. And now, I think they're now trying to link every facet of the industry to trafficking. It's a minefield right now, and so you better have we all have to have our I's and T's, dotted and crossed and so
Yeah,
on.
they
So
kind of just
I was keen to find out how that
threw everyone in
impacted
there.
on you.
Yeah, well, we got thrown in the bucket and we didn't know why. We just chose to pivot and really just polish everything up and focus on what we're doing now is just bachelor parties. We have our bachelor party planner that happens to have a bunch of hot strippers that come to the bachelor party, but we're doing everything, booking everything else for that bachelor party. So it was kind of, I guess, it helped us in a sense. It was a pain, but it helped us.
Yes. Okay. I read in the San Diego Voyager, you had there, and it was quite a nice interview, very, very complimentary, and I'm sure that did a lot for your business. But I'm going to steal a bit of that interview here. Or the interview stated that you were providing girls to the Playboy Mansion. We're gonna have to talk about this. First of all, kudos to you, hats off to you. I love to be in your shoes doing that. Did you meet Hugh Hefner personally?
Oh, absolutely met Hugh Hefner. We would supply all the models to those big Playboy Mansion parties. There'd be a few thousand people or more. So my job was to just fill it up with all the hot girls, in LA and San Diego, and make sure they're dressed and look a certain way and have a certain attitude. So they'd be the eye candy that would fill the Playboy Mansion at the big parties. And then Hugh would invite all of us to some of the smaller, more intimate parties at Playboy Mansion. Like 4th of July was one of my favorite parties at the mansion. They had just had a great band. Halloween, they had a smaller party prior to the big, huge festivity. And the other one was just a really nice, sweet Valentine's Day party. There was only like 30 of us. Like I was with like Roseanne Barr and Tiffany Holiday and Lorenzo Lamas. There were just a lot of fun, smaller parties. But and then he would throw, at the time, he would throw Sunday barbecues. So we'd sit around the grotto and eat burgers and hot dogs and jump in the pool and just have a good time. Like he really did what you think about the Playboy Mansion, it really was that. It was that.
The guy is my hero. I'm telling you, I envy you so much. I have to ask this question. Did you make a pass at you?
Yes, he did. I was invited to some pretty swanky parties in his bedroom. So I'll leave it at that.
I am sure. I'm not going to ask you anything else about that, but it's good enough for everyone to know, yes.
Good times were had. Yeah, good times were had.
That the man has good taste.
Good taste in women, for sure. He has a lot of pretty women around him.
Yeah. Okay. Let us. You're not getting tired of this word COVID-19. Everywhere you look, everything, every channel you turn on, COVID-19. I'm getting tired of it, but it's what's happening, and we've got to take note. But fast forward to COVID-19. How is Bad Girl production?
So Bad Girls, COVID, just awful. I mean, we went from doing about 65 bachelor parties a week, planning everything from San Diego to Miami. We, booking yachts and all these big excursions for these weekends for these guys. And then we went from 65 to 0, in just 1 week. Like we were, the learning curve was figuring out what new refund policies could be, because we've never had this before. And then idling, and in that idle, what I did is I chose to pivot the company and focus on virtual bachelor parties. So we and that took a couple of weeks to get that program launched. And we've been doing a lot of virtual bachelor parties. I mean, it'll never be the same as we were doing with big weekend excursions and tourism and bachelor party tourism. But we're doing, you know, 1 or 2 virtual bachelor parties
Yeah.
here. And instead of the company was making about 20 grand a week. Now we're making like, I don't know, 200, 500 a week. Like, I mean, it's nothing.
Right.
That money keeps the
I know the
lights on.
story.
But
Oh
it's
yes,
not,
I could imagine.
yeah,
Are you eligible? Of course, of course. Are you eligible for any bailout stimulus from
I
the
am.
government?
I did apply for the SBA, but you know, I don't think there's any money left. I do not for paychecks. There's a paychecks program. You have to have actual like employees, not independent contractors. A lot of my people, all of my people are independent contractors.
Mhm.
And then there's
Yes.
a couple other little stimulus ones that I need to follow up on. But yeah, you have to
Mhm.
just wait, sit around and
But
wait.
be,
I'm
because
eligible, but I'm
but
not
be,
getting the
but people in all walks of life, businesses and government institutions and agencies, they seem to marginalize people in the industry at every turn. Are you eligible, considering that you are in the adult entertainment industry? Are they not
okay.
marginalizing you as well because you're in this sector?
Well, there is a clause right in the beginning of those statements, and it speaks to like, I want to say prudent, like you can't be in the adult industry and apply for these government grants. But our other company is focused on the non-adult and just bachelor party tourism. So I kind of I have 2 companies, one's doing the adult and one's doing the bachelor party tourism. So that's how I'd qualify for that.
Yes.
But there is right on the application,
Okay.
like the second or third question, you have to click like I am not part of, you know, anything illegal or sex acts or prostitution or any of that stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so you have to be
Yes.
careful. I mean, anytime you're going to
Okay.
work with the
What about
government involved with your life, you want to be careful.
what about the dancers? How is it affecting them? I mean, I'm sure you're hearing all the sad stories from them. Tell us some of the things you're hearing from the girls about the impact of COVID-19 on them personally and professionally.
Well, most of the okay, so there's like the set of girls that saved nothing. They make all their money and spend all their money instantly. And then you have the other set of girls who make a bunch of money, save a bunch of money, and have another job. So the latter sector where they make a bunch of money, save money, and have a job, they seem to be doing okay. They're just falling back onto either their job or if that job isn't working because it's not an essential business, then they're leaning on their savings. The other girls that just make it, spend it, they are having a new awakening to what saving money means. Like they now know, oh my gosh, if we ever come back again, I'm going to save. And, you know, and they don't want to ever be in this position. And a lot of them don't even have, I don't know how they're paying their rent. I don't know how they paid rent for April and we're coming on May 1st. I don't know how they're going to pay rent for May. So it's definitely really scary for everyone. And like, you know, I was like,
imagine.
My friend of mine said, oh, well, Liz, you know, you could always go back to stripping. That's what they said just recently, is like last week. I'm like, well, okay, I'm a little old for that. But even if I wanted to go back to be a stripper because I needed to make money or something to pay rent, I couldn't. There's no jobs. There's no clubs. There's nowhere to go. Like it's done.
That's
like
right.
there's nowhere to go.
Right. Let me well, before I do that, let us go a different direction. You're tuned into AIA Live. I'm your host, Charlie Spice, and we're talking with Liz Hahn from Bad Girl Production about the impact of COVID-19 on her business, on the girls working in her organization, as well as the industry on the whole. So thank you for tuning in. Okay, let's talk a bit about, do you think that governments will have a more inclusive and accepting attitude towards people in the industry as a result of COVID-19? Because it has highlighted that we too are disadvantaged individuals. We too are are suffering like anyone else. Do you think that this will change the attitude of government towards strippers and businesses like yours going forward?
No, I think well, it might change. I don't know if they'll even look at it. I think they'll just stay the same. I don't see the government favoring us whatsoever. And I don't see anything positive happening out of this towards us. I don't see anything negative either. I don't feel they're going to be like, oh, well, that industry. I think a safe litmus test would be able to look at the strip clubs. Like, what are they going to do to the strip clubs? Or what will they do with the porn production houses in Los Angeles? And how they treat those is kind of like how you see the trickle effect for all the other aspects of this industry.
Mm-hmm. The United Nations and other similar organizations around the world, they're now putting pressure on governments to include sex workers, or anyone in the adult entertainment industry or sex industry, in their stimulus considerations or bailout considerations, because many of these girls and guys are migrants from different countries, and they're now displaced by COVID-19. So the argument is that they're not just strippers, they're not just sex workers, they're also migrants that are displaced. And they're gaining some traction with this argument. And governments are now bending a bit in terms of having the discussion about it. And this is something that has come to my knowledge lately. And I think that's music to my ears. So there is some degree of change as far as the attitude from government. Now, when the United States government decides it's business as usual, is it really going to be business as usual with strippers and clients? Imagine you're going to be stripping with a mask on. The customer has a mask on. The girls have tons of sanitizer. How do you see it? I mean, even after the all clear is given, how do you see it all happening?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to put the girls in like some sexy hazmat suits that they strip out of down to their lacy lingerie and, really make it a fun, entertaining experience. Maybe a couple naughty nurses and some hand sanitizer and some, and just try to make it have fun. And of course, what's happening, even with us, because we do book strippers on like smaller parties of like 6 guys or under, but we ask all the questions, if we travel out of the country, does anyone have a fever? Is anyone sick? And instead of us just slamming them through and hustling, we then have to screen it from the guys. Then we go to our girls and be like, hey, do you want to do this? These are the questions. This is where they are. Here's where they're from. It's just a lot more involved, I guess, like as far as getting to know your customers. And some customers actually hung up on it.
It's one thing for owners and managers like you, myself, and others to strategize and talk about how we think it should be later. But when you think of in terms of people's attitudes and people's fears, women are not going to be. They're going to be afraid to get too close to anyone, even though the all clear is given. So I don't think it's going to be business as usual. It's going to be a hard road back to where it was. I read an article recently that talked about Las Vegas, and Las Vegas has hundreds of thousands of people coming in on flights every year, or millions every year, and they're sitting shoulder to shoulder. Then they go to casinos shoulder to shoulder at the roulette and the blackjack tables. That is not going to be. It's not going to happen like that anymore. People are going to be afraid. You could show I no longer have the virus or had it got. People are going to incidents over how think about that. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. I don't think any of us know how to go back. Can you hear me? Okay. I don't know if any of us will know how to go back to not even normal, just go back to trying to be normal. I think it's a complicated matter, and I feel we're each going to have to take it one step at a time. We're going to try something, try to get the economy back, do one set of protocols that would that we think at that time will keep everyone safe. and it may or may not, and then you have to just constantly readjust to create some sort of normalcy. I mean, maybe we're all in our own little bubbles in the casino.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's definitely going to be challenging. It's definitely going to be challenging. I think that's a lot of the headache and stir.
Are you also
feeling?
Period.
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
Connectivity.
Yes.
Oh, we're having a very, very bad connect. Let me try one thing. Let me just put another plug in here. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see if this is much better. All right. How are you?
It's better.
Much better. Okay. All right. I think I know what the problem is. Are you also experiencing bad internet connectivity since COVID-19?
Yes. I think because everyone's working from home.
Yes, that's it. Obviously, yes. So, well, great. Well, anyway, we've almost at the end of this discussion. I'm really happy that you took the time to come and chat with us about your experiences pre-COVID-19 and during COVID-19. And I want to wish you all the best of luck going forward. I know it's going to be a difficult road ahead. And what would you say to people listening to this broadcast in terms of getting in touch with you?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can visit. I appreciate it. First of all, Charlie, thanks so much for having me. You're a delight. And I just am enjoying and loving watching you on this screen. It's really fun. I wish we could be close together and have some cocktails after this.
It's the beard. It's the beard. It's the beard. Yes.
It is. The beard is very sexy. Very sexy. So, yeah. So to reach me, you can go to badgirlpro.com. That's badgirlpro.com. And you can check out my site. I have a bunch of videos on there on how to throw the ultimate bachelor party. There's even some clips from my TV show. The Ultimate Bachelor Party is on Playboy TV. So there's some clips there. Kind of just, good, you guys can get to know me. Go to that site. You'll get all the information. Anytime anyone's doing a bachelor party or want to do the big weekend excursions when we're free to travel again, let's do that. We'll be able to help you out on that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Liz. It's been my pleasure. And again, best of luck going forward. And let's keep in touch. I would love you to join the Adult Industry Association. I'll send you that link afterwards.
Okay.
And you were tuned into AIA Live. I'm your host, Charlie Spies. And I want to thank you all for tuning in and giving us an audience. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye to all of you. And I'll see you next time. Okay.
Bye. Thank you, Charlie.